A tradition unlike any other. The 2021 Masters is here, and off air, Huss and I were enjoying the docile tones of the Masters theme, but due to copyright infringements, we can't play the theme. So if you guys are watching right now, go to YouTube, play the theme, and play that underneath as we talk about Augusta. I'm Pat Gregoire, joined by Andrew Hustler Paterson. Huss, I know you're fired up. I know I'm fired up. I can't wait to get things going. Even though we only had the Masters, just a couple of months ago, I'm still excited for it.
Well, Pat, it's great to see you. And I don't think this is copyrighted. Hello, friends. Let's get after it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know what, man? I mean, it was just in November when DJ was putting on the green jacket. And it seems like we were just kind of getting into winter. We're just getting out of it now, but this is what we know. The start of spring, Easter weekend, Augusta, and the Masters with the azaleas, the course looking the way it's supposed to, the greens faster than any one of us can imagine. And it seems like it's coming together with pretty much the entire smorgasbord of the world's best with probably the greatest prize in golf on the line on Sunday afternoon. We'll see whether it's DJ or whether he's putting a jacket on himself.
Well, you mentioned Dustin Johnson, right now the betting favorite at Coolbet Canada at plus 900. So before we get into our picks and who we think is going to wear the green jacket, you mentioned it last year. What we saw from Dustin Johnson was remarkable. One of the best performances ever. But like you said, the course was played completely different. So my question is, do you think that there's any sort of value at getting Dustin Johnson at plus 900? Because we know when he's on top of his game, he is the best golfer in all of golf. But with that being said, plus 900, I don't know if I like that number.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I'll tell you what, if we're talking about him winning a second straight jacket, whether there was value or not, he'll be cashing tickets. And at a certain point, if you truly believe he's going to win, sometimes you need to hold your nose if it's a very public number, if he's a favorite, and go for it. And I mean, I agree with you at their height. Everyone is playing at 100%. Maybe DJ has an edge over some of the other favorites. But again, it's so hard to guarantee that at any time. So when you're talking about the talent that we have in the Masters, especially at the top of the odds board, to have a significant delta in between DJ and the other favorites, I don't think the value is there. But again, if you're going into this weekend thinking that Dustin Johnson's doing it again, you got to bet him. Yeah. I won't be on DJ. I think that, listen, I don't know how much we can put into last November's Masters, to be honest with you. Now, listen, his body of work is incredible. I mean, the world number one, we can go down the accolades. We don't have enough time for them all. But again, it ain't easy to do this. He hadn't done it before. And this is going to be very different than November. So while having that sort of course experience and winning is important, I think that last November's Masters might pale in comparison to some of the other traditional spring experiences that other champions have. That's not to say DJ is not going to be in the mix on Sunday and be right there, but I think there's legitimate questions as to his form, his health, all of those things coming in that is kind of directing me off of Dustin Johnson to a couple of the other favorites and to some longer shots as we'll get into as we continue the program.
I think one thing that maybe you can grab some value is if, come Thursday morning or whenever he's teeing off and he kind of falters or stumbles at the start. And maybe if we see the number kind of, pull back up plus over the, 10-1, maybe you take a stab there. I just, at plus 900, you mentioned there's just so many big names at the top right now. And there is that little bit of separation. I don't see it. But like you said, only elite talent have ever gone back-to-back at the Masters. So, for him to be the fourth guy to ever do it, I think it's possible, but I'm not going to, lay the juice there and go with the public. But to move things on, last year's biggest storyline heading in was Bryson DeChambeau and how about Big Bryson was going to tear Augusta up. He was going to change the history of how Augusta National is played. And he was 8-up chewed and spat out. Although he did come back near the end on Saturday and put up a respectable score, but everyone was saying, including himself, he was going to completely change the way that this golf course was played, and that certainly wasn't the case. Do you think Bryson's a little bit humbled and we maybe see a different approach, or do you think we see DeChambeau, what we saw on the range the other day, absolutely trying to put balls onto Pluto and swinging as hard as he can?
I don't think Bryson's been humbled at all. And that, hey, this is the guy that said he basically comes to Augusta and plays a par 68 before the Masters last year. And then, I mean, I'm sure most people watching this have probably spent a good 15, 20 minutes in front of their computer just watching that clip of him on the range over and over and over again. Basically, we were all Vijay Singh standing there watching him do his thing. I mean, I asked Mark Zecchino about that. Like, what the hell was he doing? I mean, what sort of a show is this? And I guess it's some speed, strength training. I mean, basically, Bryson looks like he should be one of those guys hitting on the football fields on a Tuesday night on those long drive competitions.
Yes.
But hey, he does have the game. He was the favorite last year going into the Masters. You remember, he had a win. He was playing very well. A lot of other guys were kind of in limbo. So listen, I get it why he is still, right there near the top. But to be honest with you, and he is such a polarizing guy. There are some people that are huge DeChambeau guys, and they'll sort of give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll be honest, I'm sort of on the other side. I think I like other guys better. There's reasons that I could give you right now, like this is driving, his short game is quite good. When he gets putting well, I mean, he can really be on it, and we've seen that when he won the U.S. Open. Mm-hmm. But I just think that in this field, especially with what happened in last November and his history at Augusta National, there's other guys that I feel a lot more confident that will be there on Sunday afternoon. Because while Bryson could be there, I think there's also an argument to be made that he could be out of the mix. And, we sort of saw some examples of that when he was the clear favorite with some of the other big guys not even in the tournament last November. So DJ and Bryson, to me, are actually guys that aren't on my cards, and I'll probably be staying away from them on DraftKings. And, listen, Pat, when you're you can't bet everyone in a tournament like this. And you have to make some tough decisions, and that's part of the risk going in. And, we talked about the value with DJ. I just think that as Bryson, as we tape right now, has dropped to, he's plus 1150 right now.
Yeah.
There's other guys around there that I think have a better chance to win. So that's where I'm going to be going. But I'll tell you what, I certainly won't be turning the TV off when Bryson DeChambeau's making a shot this weekend, because, he is must see.
Absolutely. He's as must-see as it gets, and I think golf has kind of been waiting for that guy since the departure of Tiger Woods. But with that being said, another guy that seems to move the needle is Jordan Spieth. And I don't want to, I'll give it away. I already put it out on Twitter. Last week, I jumped in on Jordan Spieth at plus 1,700. So I got him just as the Valero Open. I think he opened up with 2 birdies in his first 3 holes. I saw that, and I expected the line to just, really come down. Right now, he's at 12-1. So he is one of the top favorites. I'm going to ask you, because I've already bought in. I'm drinking the Spieth Kool-Aid. Do you think that him being near the top of the favorites, it's a testament to how he's back? He's risen on Easter Sunday and his career is revitalized? Or is this more of the books kind of covering themselves? Because as you know, just a few months ago, you could get Jordan Spieth at 50-1, 40-1. There's people out there with some serious tickets on Spieth to win. So is this more or less maybe the books just covering their rear ends, or do you actually think that maybe Spieth could be back here?
It's hard. And Jordan Spieth's a special player, and some people love him, some people not big fans of him. But the bottom line is he is one of the great stars in golf. And even if you're not a Spieth guy, to see where his struggles over the last few years, I think, was shocking. And listen, his resurgence is just great for the game. And as my buddy Jeff Feinberg said, he poured gasoline on this Masters with the win in Texas last week. I mean, it just adds another incredible storyline coming in here. But no, I mean, I think Jordan Spieth's resurgence is very much legitimate. I mean, he didn't come out of nowhere as World 100 and win last week. I mean, he had been contending, he had been improving, he had been in the mix on Sunday, he had been gradually working his way up through the world rankings, back to where most of us expect him to be, and then he got the big win on Sunday afternoon. So to me, he's coming in with some serious mojo and momentum. He's coming in with an increased confidence that wasn't there for a long time, and his form has been great. And when you're talking about the Masters, you're talking about current form and course experience. And Jordan Spieth is really near the top of the list in both of those. So, listen, I realize that we haven't been talking a lot of Jordan, and the thought of him being one of the favorites 6 months ago would have been asinine in a conversation. But guess what? Things change, and that's exactly where we are. And I would be surprised. I know we'll probably talk to Chris on our program on Thursday once the things get going. I would not be surprised if once we kind of get going and all the outrights are finished, that Jordan Spieth might be the most popular bet in the entire field, from both his public popularity as well as what he's doing lately. So, yeah, the Spieth is going to be an incredible story. I know you got him on to me at that number right now. As I said, I'll get into a couple other guys in that neighborhood that, I've had to make the decision. Those are the guys I'm going for. But, I mean, as far as things like DraftKings, and we'll get to top 5, top 10s, I would be shocked if Jordan Spieth if we're not talking about him on Sunday in some way, not necessarily to win the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you there. Obviously, like I said, I'm buying in. I'm all in. I'm already locked in. So I've already given out one of my best bets. So let's get into some of your best bets. But before we do that, let's just take a look at the outright favorites right now. As we mentioned, Dustin Johnson at 9-1, Bryson DeChambeau plus 1150, Jon Rahm at plus 1,200, Justin Thomas as well, 12-1, Jordan Spieth, 13-1, Rory McIlroy, 20-1, Patrick Cantlay, 22-1, Brooks Koepka at plus 2,500, Xander Schauffele at 27-1, and Colin Morikawa at plus 2,900. Now, some of those lines have already moved. We had the graphics all made up early this morning, and we've already seen some movement there. So let's start things off with your favorite bet. What is your best bet for the outright winners, Huss?
Well, if it came down to just laying one bet on this tournament, which obviously won't be the case.
No.
But if I just had, one fiver to put down on who I think is going to win the Masters, it's Justin Thomas. I got him at 13-1 earlier in the week. We've got him at 12-1. He is actually one of those numbers that has just changed this morning. From what you just said, there's two numbers that are different. JT's gone from 12-1 to plus 1150. And interesting, I haven't heard a lot of people talking about Xander Schauffele, but obviously some people are betting on him because he's gone from 27-25. But back to JT. He's had a really tough year. He had a pretty dumb indiscretion on the golf course that reflected on him poorly as one of the young stars of the game. It cost him some sponsors. I think there was some time where I don't want to necessarily say had to spend some time growing up, but, some introspection. And then this happened at the same time where he lost his grandfather that he was incredibly, incredibly close to. And, personally and professionally, I think he went through one of the toughest times of his life. A pretty charmed life at that, but it wasn't a great time for Team Justin Thomas. He came back, he was struggling a little bit, and then you saw his game get back to the JT that we know. And winning the Players Championship with the way that he did, I think that was a seminal moment for JT as far as getting back into the winner's circle, getting beyond a lot of the baggage that he was carrying, and getting back to what he does best. And when you talk about the Masters, we mentioned current form, course experience. He hasn't won the green jacket, but he's certainly been in contention before. He's played in this tournament a number of times. And talking to people that probably know a lot more about this than me, the one stat that you always look at, especially at Augusta National, is, strokes gained approach, the ability to hit great irons. And Justin Thomas, if he's not the best in the world, is in that small category of the best. And to me, he brings the game that gives him that puts his name in the hat of the best to actually win this tournament. I'm not actually surprised that this number's kind of been chipped away, because as much as, we're always talking about Bryson and Dustin Johnson, and Spieth's been the big story. Very quietly, I think more and more people are sort of, looking at some of the numbers and what's going on and say, man, JT is a guy that maybe some people are sleeping on. Bettors haven't been sleeping on, as we just mentioned on that move. So if it comes down to it, Justin Thomas is my single pick. He'll have my biggest bet of the week. And there's some other guys. I really do like John Rahm. On some DraftKings lineups, I'm trying to stack both of those guys in there. But again, when you're talking about numbers at 12-1 in a field like this, I think you sort of have to focus in on the guy that you feel best about and put your big bet in on it. Justin Thomas is that guy for me. Brooks Koepka, I would expect Brooks. And again, this goes back to, some of the things we talked about with DJ, current form, injury questions, all that. We all know that Brooks Koepka, if he is fully healthy and playing well, is as elite as anybody in the game and can go toe-to-toe with the likes of Justin Thomas and Dustin Johnson. But there's been questions about that. I will say this. His knee that everyone's talking about looked pretty good the other day when he was on one knee proposing to his girlfriend. And Listen, all I really needed to see, Pat, was on Sunday as we were watching Spieth win, flipping around Twitter, and somebody put out some report that, Brooks Koepka was hearing that he was going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, that sort of thing. And Brooks goes and just retweets the Michael Jordan, and I took that personal. That was pretty much all I needed. He was 29-1. He was 29-1 during the Sunday afternoon's round. I'm not sure whether that tweet did anything, or there were some other people like me that ran to it, but shortly after he was 27, and then when the Monday odds came out and a lot of other guys had a bigger number, Brooks has gone down to 25. Listen, he's the sort of player that I think I have enough confidence that if he's in the field, he'll be well enough to play, up to a level that he thinks he can compete. And if Brooks can compete, especially when he comes in with a chip on his shoulder, whether it's self-imagined or not, he's, an incredible competitor. So I think that there's some real value at 25-1. To me, a guy like Brooks, Brooks, I'm just looking, has actually gone back a bit to 27-1. Yeah. So there you go. A little bit back and forth, all in that neighborhood, while people focus on other guys. I'm not sleeping on Brooks Koepka. He's on my card this weekend.
Absolutely. And he's not on my official card for this show, but I was thinking about it, and now you have absolutely talked into me. And especially now that his number's gone back up, I'm totally in on him. I'm going to go with Brooks. To me, it kind of seems like, when you go to the store and you're looking through the clearance rack, and then you pull something out and you're like, why is this here? This is a really nice shirt, or this shouldn't be here. You get a value find, right? Yes. Okay, sure. The knee, maybe there's a little bit of a tear on the shirt, but you could, get your grandma to sew it back together, or you just tuck in the shirt. That's what Brooks for this value is right now to me, because if he is healthy, he should be right there with the likes of Spieth, with JT, with Rahm at that number, even close to, what we're seeing with Dustin Johnson. Obviously, DJ is going to be a lower number, but for me, with that value, you're getting boosted odds essentially, and I'm going to ride with you there. I'm going to go with Brooks Koepka with you. So you've done your two. Everyone can see now your third pick, and this is another pick that I really, really like.
Yeah, Cam Smith. And listen, part of it is just imagining all the stuffy members and patrons at Augusta National seeing a guy with maybe the dirtiest mullet in sports getting that green jacket put on him by DJ. But listen, Cam Smith was right there in November on Sunday. And I know we said, let's not put too much into last November's Masters because of the unique conditions and circumstances around it. But for a player like Cam Smith, that doesn't change the fact that he went toe-to-toe with the world's best at this golf course. And, that's only going to help him going into this. It won't be the be-all, end-all, but that sort of experience has to be good. And then you look at what he's done kind of quietly throughout this year. He's contended over and over again. He had a tough out early in the match play. But, even dating back to the West Coast swing in Hawaii, there was Cam Smith, week in and week out, always in and around the leaderboards. I think he's got a really complete game that, if I'm not sure you'd put Cam Smith as the best in anything, but when you put it all together, He's an incredibly well-rounded player. He's won. His experience is continuing to grow. And I really do think that the way he was able to acquit himself last November and play the way he has since then puts him into a bit of a dark horse category. And, listen, 44-1, when you think about the guys that he's in and around, he's there with Webb Simpson. And I could give you a great argument by Webb Simpson at 44-1, might be some of the best value on the board as well. But I don't know, maybe because I bet him a few times, I've spent a lot of time watching Cam Smith. I just think that, he has the game to contend right now. And at 44-1, outside of the guys everyone's been talking about, he'll get a touch. And I do think, is he going to win? Obviously, probably not. But I think we'll be talking about Cam Smith on Sunday. I like him for some other special bets on it. And I'm definitely going to get a touch on him at 44-1 to win the whole thing.
You know what? Before we get into mine, I do agree. Cam Smith, I didn't take him as one of my outrights, but I debated for very long. As you said, you can't just bet the entire board. You can't pick everyone to win, or you're just going to hedge yourself to death. So I didn't have him there, but I won't spoil anything, but I will give you a teaser. He is on my card somewhere, and I agree with you. I think it would just be awesome to see him in the cabin after, and Dustin Johnson putting that green jacket on and just his mullet hanging right over. Wouldn't that just be perfect?
The only thing that could be better than that is Dustin Johnson having to put the green jacket on Kevin Na after Kevin Na had the incident at the match play where he put his arm around him and stuff like that. That truly would be the funniest situation in Butler cabin. But I got to tell you, if that dirty Aussie mullet of Cam Smith got in there, it'd be interesting. And then I can't remember. It'd be interesting to see what he'd do for the champions dinner next year. Little Aussie flair, Foster's Lager on the table for everyone. That's the way to. Before we start planning Cam Smith's champions dinner, let's see how he does in the first 18. But we will be getting on him at 44-1.
Exactly. He busted my bracket last week for the match play. I had him going all the way, and he was knocked out in the first round. So he's got to bounce back for us. So before we get into my best bets, quickly, guys, if you are watching, we want to remind you that you can comment your best bets, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Go into the comments and let us know what your best bets are for the Masters. So I'm going to give you some of my outrights. I already went on with Jordan Spieth. I don't need to really touch on him as well. You did mention Rahm, and I agree. I really like Rahm here, especially at 12-1. He hasn't won at Augusta just yet, but he's always been solid at the Masters. In the last 3 years, he's finished at a top 10. And even last year, he finished T7 and kind of was up and down. But for me, throw away the fancy stats, throw away the green to T numbers, even though he's got them to support him. My big thing, it's that baby bump. He gave birth, him and his wife gave birth to a new child. And as you know, in golf, that is a must play for a bet. He's going to be playing carefree golf. And a guy like Jon Rahm, who's an absolute snap show, maybe this is something that calms him down. Life is good. I even saw earlier before we went to air here, Huss, that he said he hadn't really picked up a club. He hadn't really been thinking of too much. And a lot of people maybe be like, oh, no, he's not ready to go. But I'm taking it as he's nice and calm. He's ready to go. He's clear-headed. And like I said, maybe it's not the most analytical pick for me, but I'm a sucker when it comes to these storylines. I think, couldn't it be just a perfect storyline come Sunday? He's in contention, and they just keep talking about that new child.
Hey, Rahm has the game, and if there's any player that baby swag would help, what did you just say? He's going to have a level of calm and peace to himself. That's the one thing that is often missing from Jon Rahm's game. It's certainly not the skill that he has on the course. So I'm with you on that. He's in some lineups, and he, the fine tuning of some of his game might not be there because of what he's been focusing on. But I do feel, listen, I just think he's one of the best in the world. I think you could pull him probably 6 months off not playing and put him in a course like this, a field like this, and he'd still probably be able to make the cut. But with everything that's gone around him, he's definitely a player to watch this weekend.
Yeah, Rom and calm don't really go in the same sentence, but the new baby boy maybe put some new perspective for him. So I'm
Hopefully
going
it
with
works.
Rom.
Hopefully the baby swag works out better than it did for Rory.
Touche, touche. So the next one for me is Patrick Cantlay at 22-1. You mentioned it already. Ball striking, iron play, tee to green numbers. That is what matters the most at the Masters. And Patrick Cantlay is one of the most elite ball strikers on tour. The former USCLA Bruin has been unbelievable with his green to tee numbers, which is, like I said, you have to have that coming in at the Masters. He's had some experience playing pretty well at Augusta as well. Finished in the top 20 last year as well. So at 22-1, I like the value. Obviously, he's not up there with some of the heavy favorites, but in that next pack there, I really, really like Cantlay at this number. And then my last one is Colin Morikawa. We kind of talked about him a little bit already. Same thing. Great green to tee numbers. He's a great ball striker, great iron play. When he's on his game, he is one of the best golfers in the world. I think he's one of the next big names that you'll see each and every week on the PGA Tour. But the thing that kind of scares me and almost turned me away, it's that putting. He is an absolute nightmare some days with his putting. But there seems to be this common misconception that you have to be this immaculate putter to win at Augusta. But really, outside of, let's say, Patrick Reed, a few years ago when he won, no one has really run away with the tournament with their putting. It's been the short game. It's been the iron play. That is really what's won people here. And I mean, when you think of Colin Morikawa, that's what you think of his game. And at 29-1, I absolutely love that value.
Well, this number, I mean, I was on Morikawa when he won the PGA Championship for his first major, and it was a number right in this range as well. And you're thinking about a major. I mean, in a regular tournament, Morikawa is going to be a shorter number, but everybody's playing here. We're talking about the focus on all the big boys up front. But when it comes to iron play, you're exactly right. I mean, to me, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, maybe 1-2 as far as strokes gained approach. And you know what? If your putter sucks, what's a great thing to do? Hit it to 3 feet and tap it in every time. And he's a guy that is able to do exactly that. I'm not on Morikawa. Listen, I would totally expect him to contend right now. But I'll tell you what, if he is dialed in, that number 29-1 for a player of his category, he's a major championship winner. And I'm pretty sure at some point he'll be getting a green jacket on him in his career. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking a lot about him on Sunday.
So we don't know maybe if he will be wearing a green jacket this Sunday, but we're pretty sure one of these days he will. And as you mentioned, having the experience, coming into the tournament, being a previous champion or being someone who at least has had some experience is something that is so huge at Augusta. So with all that being said, we're going to move to our long shots, which I don't want to spoil things, but both of us here have some guys that have experience winning the green jacket for our long shots. So Huss, we're going to start with your long bombs first.
Well, we're going to go to Bubba Watson. And what's interesting on this is I was pretty excited about this number at 79-1 earlier this week. I was frankly stunned to see it move as much as it did. Bubba is now 99-1.
Crazy.
And this is a guy that has won, we've talked about it, experience and form. And, try finding better experience. There's maybe Phil Mickelson. He's got 3 green jackets. Bubba's got 2 in his closet. I mean, his greatest moments of his golfing life have happened at Augusta National. And I really think Bubba's the sort of player, and he's got a unique headspace. Let's just call it that with Bubba. He could be playing horrible for 4 months, go back to Destin, spend a week on the pontoon boat, and show up in Augusta and be an entirely new person. The other thing is that Bubba, as of late, actually has been showing some glimpses that he is coming back into form. Had some brilliant shots in the match play, making it out of the group round. So, a guy that's unique and a guy that can get as hot as Bubba with the history that he has at Augusta National at a number like this, it was, as I said, it was irresistible at 79-1. It has been re-upped at 99-1. And I can tell you that I'd like Bubba to win more than anyone financially because at the numbers that we get, the value is huge on Bubba Watson. And the other former champion is Sergio Garcia. And I'll be honest, I've probably, when you look at some of the other guys that we're seeing, in the 39-1, 44, 49-1, I'm stunned that Sergio is at 64-1 right now. He is a former Green Jacket winner, played very well at the match play, won, in the past couple months on tour in Texas. So I'm trying to see what we're missing here. Maybe it's the books that are missing on it right now. It's 64-1, but I fully expect Sergio to be in contention on the weekend. I think this might be the best value bet of the entire tournament right now, in my opinion, in the real chance to be in the mix and potentially win the tournament at a number like this. Both of these guys have done it before. We've seen guys take some time off and then come back and win again. As far as long shots go, 99-1 on Bubba and 65 on Sergio Garcia. To me, it was hard to stay away.
Absolutely. I totally agree with both of them there. And no need to continue to hammer home Bubba because I'm with you there. I liked him. And then I'll be honest, you sent me your pick so we could get ready for the show. And I saw that you had it at 99-1. And I was like, there's no way that could be it. And I looked, it was right. So what did I do? I logged on, hammered, already put that pick in because I was like, this cannot be right. This has to be a mistake. So I'm going with him. You already said enough. That's a great pick. For me, I'm going with some Canadian content here. Corey Connors at 79-1. You want to talk about ball strikers. You want to talk about elite swings. You want to talk about tee to green and consistency. Well, that's Corey Connors to an absolute tee. The Listowel, Ontario native, has been on fire as of late. He's been in contention pretty much every single start that he's been in. You turn on the TV, you look at the leaderboard, and he's somewhere near that top 5, top 10. Is he going to win? I don't know. Is he going to be the second Canadian to put on that green jacket? I don't know. Probably not likely, but at 79-1, he is going to be in the mix. He's going to be there, Huss. And we've seen crazier things happen at Augusta National. And wouldn't that be awesome if, he's there, Mike Weir's there, and he becomes the second Canadian to ever win a green jacket? That would just be beautiful for the game of golf here in Canada. But he's starting to make some waves down in the States. You listen to some of the podcasts, some of the shows, they're now starting to talk about Corey Connors, not as just, a great Canadian golfer, but one of the best players on tour at right now, just based on his consistency.
Everyone certainly was talking about him at the Valero Open because his picture was on the room keys of every PGA player at the hotel as the defending champion of the event. I'll tell you what, if you watch the Sunday round, and I know he wasn't right there in contention with Spieth, he was a little ways back, but you saw him on the Sunday round hitting some nice irons, dropping some putts, getting some birdies, and I think playing well in his last competitive round before the Masters. And hey, the story how he got to the Masters in the first place, winning that tournament a couple of years ago. Yeah. Just one of the great Canadian golf stories in a long time, but it wasn't just a blip on the map. It was sort of an emergence. And, he has, he along with Mac Hughes, and we'll talk about the Canadians in a little bit, both had really strong seasons and Mac very much deservedly in this event, along with Mike Weir, who's a bit of a long shot. But it all comes down to Corey Connors' iron play. That separates him from a lot of players on the tour, and why I think when you look at players in that long shot category, it's sort of 80-100-1. He's a guy you can make an argument that if things go well and he does drop a few putts, he has the game that can put him in contention. So I know there'll be a lot of people wearing red and white, hoping that he can be wearing green on Sunday afternoon.
I absolutely love it. And you said we're going to talk about the Canadians, so let's not waste any time here and let's get to one of your, we'll call it the specialty bets here, your nationality bets. You have a couple, and Corey Connors as the top Canadian at minus 143. Earlier this week, you talked about, getting in on this because you could only imagine it's going to drop and drop and drop.
Yeah, well, for some of the reasons that we just talked about, I just think his game listen, with all due respect to Mike Weir, this is a bet between two players. It's Corey Connors and it's Mackenzie Hughes. And I guess just the fact that you've got Weir in the mix at 6-1, puts those two numbers down a little bit. The way it looks right now is Corey Conners is -143, Mac Hughes is +185. Love Mac. I think he's been awesome this year, and he is the one guy that has the ability to just get in a zone with the flat stick and start dropping bombs from, the next green over. But here's the thing, much like what we just discussed, I think Corey Conners' iron game and consistency will put him in. I just think he'll be a guy that, starts off pretty well and can smoothly roll in. We'll see whether Mac can get on, on a bit of a roll with putter, and obviously whether his iron game can put him in the position to make birdies, no fear pars and move on. To me, this is Conners to win. And, I said, going in, I was really expecting, again, maybe it's just not as much Canadian money coming in on this with only 3 guys going in. But as far as the bets that I had, this is probably one of the biggest of the week, because I really do think that, I was expecting this number to be considerably bigger. I thought he'd probably go off at -160 or -165. So while it's still at -143, I think there's great value. And I have a heavy level of confidence that Corey Conners will be the top Canadian at the end of the tournament. And then the other one's Cam Smith. Oh, yeah. I was just, made a touch on Cam Smith. We don't need to go down. There's a number of guys. Jason Day, of course, is in there. Adam Scott. But I really think that his play this year has sort of elevated him to, and Day comes up big in tournaments at times. We won't talk about him. And then all of a sudden he's top 5 at the end of it. Certainly that's a possibility, but a 2-1 for Cam Smith. I already laid out the reasons why I think that he could contend to actually win this green jacket. I like 2-1 on Cam Smith to be the top Aussie in the tournament as well.
Michael Shearer, who's watching on YouTube, also agrees with you. He says that Conners, as the top Canadian, is free money. So he agrees with you. Obviously, I think so. If I'm sprinkling some money for him to win the tournament, obviously he's going to be the top Canadian. So there are your specialty bets. I only have one specialty bet, and that is the top debutante, Robert McIntyre of Scotland, to be the best Augusta rookie in the field. He is +275 right now. And I won't give away one of your picks, but I know you're very, very, very heavy on Will Zalatoris, who is the favorite here. And I do think that there's a good chance that he will be the best rookie for the Masters this weekend. But Robert McIntyre, he's on the European Tour. He's a big, hard-hitting lefty. He has an aggressive style, not as aggressive as a Bryson DeChambeau, but I think he's a guy that can maybe take a different approach to the Masters here, and it might be able to pay off. And Huss, to be quite honest, I was looking through some things, and I was reading an article back home for him in Scotland, and he said, I've played the Masters and I've played Augusta on video games, and now I get to do it in real life. That quote right there, I had to buy in on it. So that's why I'm going for him at +275.
Hey, listen, I'm pretty sure our boy Zalatoris also was playing some Tiger Woods getting ready to go on that. Hey, this is interesting. And I do like Zalatoris. We'll talk about him before. I just, at +135, I think that if we're looking for a nice value play on this, I think McIntyre's there. The AMs, the Strafassi at 16, Joe Long 22. I mean, I'm not really as much thinking about those two guys. So it's sort of a 3-horse race. I think Zalatoris will get the majority of the money, but we have heard the name Robert McIntyre pop up throughout this week, and at more than twice the odds of Zalatoris. It's not a bad swing to take when we're talking about the first timers at Augusta National.
Absolutely. Just a little sprinkle, just looking for some value here and there. And that's what we're here to do on our preview show. We're here to entertain. We're here to give out some picks, but also some long shots too. So speaking of our picks, let's move into things now. We've done our outrights. We've done our specialties. We're now going into the top 5. So these guys don't necessarily have to win, but come Sunday, you want them in contention near the top of that leaderboard. So Huss, give me your bets for your top 5.
Well, we've talked about Cam Smith before. I think he's a guy that has all the tools to contend. And I think that, as I said, top 5 before, right in the mix there in November. I'm excited for his opportunity to come and take another swing at this. And, I think getting in and actually winning that green jacket, I mean, I'm on it, but at plus 650, I would have loved to get 7 or 8 on this one. But he's just a player that I really feel like he can be in the mix on Sunday. I think he's had the experience, he's got the game, so I'm going to go with Cam Smith at plus 650. And this goes back to the value we talked about on Sergio Garcia before. Now, Sergio may not win the tournament, but we've said his form is coming in well. He's won this tournament before. We have seen guys later on in their careers be their best at Augusta National. And I think that, there's a lot of things that indicate Sergio could be exactly that guy. So while I think there's incredible value on him to win the green jacket, it wouldn't surprise me if he's in the mix. I could certainly see him being top 5. And at 8-1, when you compare to some of the other numbers with guys that have been in the mix, this one just jumped out to me. So my 2 top 5 picks, I'm going to still roll with the mullet and Cam Smith, but Sergio Garcia, even if he doesn't get the second green jacket, I think he will be a significant player on the weekend. And that's why I like him at 8-1 to crack the top 5.
My top 5s, I will pull up my top 5s here. That is my long shots. Top 5s here. I'm rolling with the mullet as well at plus 650.
Nice.
We've talked about him a lot, but one thing we haven't mentioned, I saw this earlier this week, only DJ, Rory, and Cam Smith have finished in the top 5 in the last 3 years. So that is something that obviously if you're a Cam Smith supporter, he's with good company there with those two. So that's why I like him there. And then Corey Connors. I've already went on about Corey, his ball striking. I think that he's found himself near the top of the leaderboard the last handful of events. I anticipate he's going to be there. So needless to say, I've got a lot of stock in Corey Connors, the Listowel, Ontario native. So we've done the top 5. Let's get into our top 10s and our top 20s. Huss, give them to me.
Well, this is the guy, Will Zalatoris. You talk about the debutante, and I was talking to Mark Zucchino from Golf Talk Canada yesterday on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and Z was breaking down the fact that he is a debuting player has sort of taken him out of much of the conversation about winning the tournament. And I sort of get that. I'm not expecting him to win the tournament. But when you look at, this is a guy that should be on the Corn Ferry Tour. He does not have, a PGA Tour, a full PGA Tour card, and yet he played so well through exemptions. He got into the top 50, and now he is here in the Masters. He's one of the great stories in golf over the course of the past year. He makes the cut every week. He's often in contention. He hasn't yet won on the PGA Tour, but he has been in the mix. And, it's a lot to expect a guy making his first trip to Augusta to be there in the winner's circle on Sunday. But I honestly think that he's got the game and the confidence from what he's proven this year, playing against all these guys, that he can hang with all of them pretty much anywhere. So I thought top 5 was maybe a little bit aggressive. I didn't love the value at the plus 135 on the top debutante, although I might get a touch in on that. But I figured that, plus 450 for Zalatoris for a top 10 will be a fun bet to make. We'll be able to follow him, and I think it's a lot more realistic than some of the more long shots. And then for top 20s, I mentioned the vision that I think so many people had. I think Mayo was talking about it, and man, it was funny about Kevin Na getting the green jacket on, maybe fast walking in and grabbing his putts out just as they go in the hole. I've actually turned into a big Kevin Na guy. He's sort of weird, a little quirky. We saw the incident with him and DJ at the match play.
Good for content.
What, when he heats up, and we talked about iron play, my God, can he go at the hole? So listen, he could blow up and be out of the mix after Thursday, but he's also a guy that, if you told me that he was the first round leader, I could probably believe it. I don't think he's going to win the tournament, but at 4-1 to be in the top 20, I like this number the best, and gives me a reason to keep the dream alive of Kevin Na in the Butler cabin on Sunday afternoon.
Now you mentioned obviously Na, great for content if he's there. That would actually, I'd be interested to see what his number would be for the first round leader. And if you are watching right now, you can go to Coolbet Canada. You can check out now that our round one odds are available. So if you if you want that, I know golf bettors, sometimes you got to wait till the end of the tournament to reap the benefits of the wins. But if you want something just for Thursday, you can go to coolbet.com right now and you can start placing your bets for round one. So at the end of round one, you can do head to head, who's going to lead. We also have some over unders for total score for round one. So the possibilities are endless starting on Thursday. We will also be offering live betting as well for some of our markets. So it's an exciting time to be a bettor at Coolbet. And of course, as I said, if you're looking for more of the traditional sports betting where, you're going head to head, it's a one-day event type of thing, the outrights you're not too certain on, that's an easy way to get involved there. So I'm going to go towards my top 10 and my top 20. I've got Matt Kuchar at plus 600 to finish in the top 10. And Kuch has actually finished in the top 10 4 times in the last 10 years. Only Rory and DJ have finished more. And Adam Scott, Jason Day, Westwood, and Spieth, they've also finished with 4. So he's in pretty good company there. And you mentioned it. Obviously, having experience at Augusta is important, but also having form is very important. And Kuch, in the last 2 weeks, he's been vintage Kuch. At the match play, he finished in the top 3. And last week, he was hovering around the leaderboard. I think he finished in the top 10 or just outside the top 10. So Kuch at plus 600 to stay in that top 10. I really like that. And Louis Oosthuizen and Max Homa to finish in the top 20. We talked about previous experience. Oosthuizen lost in heartbreaking fashion in that 2012 playoff, a very memorable Masters moment. And with Max Homa, he doesn't have the experience at playing well at Augusta, but we talk about those analytic numbers, the tee to green numbers. Yeah. He has been great. He's racked up 2 top 10 finishes. He's picked up a victory as well. And his par 5 scoring is unbelievable. That's another number that when you are looking to bet, guys, the tee to green numbers, those are great as well. But it's the par 5 scoring, and he's actually 3rd in the last 50 rounds for the entire pool here. So Max Homa, top 20 at plus 250. Louis Oosthuizen at top 20 at plus 180. I just like the value there as well.
You know what? I might get on Homa for the top 20 as well. He is a really fun guy. You saw that win back in his native California and what that meant to him. And that, to me, I think, can be one of those harbiters of things to come. He is great on Twitter. He'll just be a fun guy to cheer for. So
exactly,
this guy in. And I see Vince Fecto, Tommy Fleetwood at 6,400, an enticing underdog pick. That was the other number. I went with Sergio at that same number because I think he's got the green jacket, gives a little bit more reason. But I'll be honest, I was quite surprised to see Tommy at over 50-1 for this tournament, considering the game that he's shown over the last few years.
And I know we've talked on Twitter before about you being a Tony Finau guy. So am I.
Yeah.
But I have the same issue with Tony Finau as I do with Tommy Fleetwood. It seems like every event I end up betting on those two guys. I've kind of fallen off the Tony bandwagon, I'm not going to lie, but I continued to ride with Fleetwood, and I feel like this is going to be the week where I don't put him on my card, and he's either going to finish in the top 10, top 5, or maybe even win this thing, like Vince Fecto said, at 64-1. So I think he's not on my official card, but come Thursday morning or tonight before I tuck myself into bed, I would not be surprised if I end up sprinkling a little bit on Tommy Fleetwood, because I know I will be crushed if it's the one week that I don't put any money down on him. And he has been pretty good at the Masters. It's just he has absolutely fallen off a cliff on Sundays. And if he can figure out to put a full round or full 4 rounds of golf together, I think he could be in contention. It's just we haven't been able to see him, especially when it comes to Augusta.
Yeah, Tommy, over the last 3-4 years, you've kind of can pick those spots where Tommy would really be a contender. I don't think we've seen that so far this season, but he certainly has the game. And as far as my guy, Tony, Man, there's some if you've been on Team Tony for a while, there is some scar tissue.
Yeah.
So many close calls. Such a brilliant game and such a great guy, someone that we all want to see win so much. So I will admit, even a couple weeks ago, I'm like, listen, I have to have a bet on Tony at the Masters. So just to cover my ass after losing on him all this other time, I would love to see that. I think so many people in golf would. But again, if it all comes down to it, I'm thinking Justin Thomas gets his green jacket on Sunday afternoon, and that's where it is. But as we've gone through for the last hour, Pat, there's so many different things you can get into. And we didn't even touch on all of the tournament matchups you can play at Canada. So if you're high on a certain guy and fading another dude, you could maybe get them matched up against each other. So no shortage of wagering options at Coolbet for the biggest golf tournament of the year beginning tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. It's a bad weekend to be a coach. There's going to be coaches all across the world. They'll be taking a beating. I know I'll be sitting down enjoying it. Maybe have a few beverages, a pimento and cheese sandwich, if you will. But I'm looking forward. And Huss, I cannot thank you enough for hopping on board. I know you got to get running here soon, but before you get going, let the folks at home know where they can find you with Sports Talk Winnipeg and maybe what's coming up in the next couple of days as well.
Yeah, well, we've been all over the Masters for the last couple of days. We had Reed Fowler come on Monday, Mark Zecchino yesterday. My buddy Jeff Feinberg's going to pop on with final picks today around 2 o'clock Central Time. And, of course, the next couple of days will be all over, probably hitting some Coolbet live odds as well on Thursday and Friday. Talking Masters. I've got the Jets out in Montreal tomorrow. So, certainly do that. And I may as well throw this in. If you haven't yet got on Coolbet, we got a little hookup for you. You can use the promo code WST, and we'll give you a 100% bonus on your first deposit up to $200. That'll go a long way for some sprinkles for the green jacket on Thursday. So promo code WST. But Pat, thanks so much for having me. Always have fun doing these shows. We're talking curling, now we're talking golf, and we're always talking a little bit of wagering with Coolbet.
Absolutely. And Huss, like I said, thank you so much for hopping on. We're obviously going to have you once again, whether it be for the U.S. Open in a couple of months. I'm sure playoff hockey is just around the corner, and who knows? Maybe the Jets and the Leafs, maybe they meet in the playoffs at some point. Maybe we'll have to have a mayor bet in between you and I there. But
how about this? How about a live celebration stream with you and me when Bubba wins at 99-1 on Sunday and get the third jacket? Let's book that. That's what I'm talking about.
I love it. I love it. And on that note, we'll end our 2021 Masters betting preview show. He's Andrew Hustler Paterson. I'm Pat Gregoire. Thank you so much for everyone to join in. Remember, go to coolbet.com and you can find all the Masters odds and props and much more. As always, stay cool, bet responsibly, and enjoy the Masters.